to is Jonathan Taylor. Now, looks like he might be next up on the running back list as well, since he's kind of holding in, it sounds like he's there on the PUP list. Jim Irsay even had like a little tweet earlier today basically saying the idea of like, we worked hard for the collective bargaining agreement. We're not going to change it for a position. It's out of line, more or less. Just not great words, honestly. It sounds like there's going to be a little bit of a battle between them over the next year. And when I look at the Colts, you got a 24-year-old running back who is a year removed from leading the league in rushing yards, touchdowns, yards from scrimmage. Basically, if it wasn't for Cooper Kupp, he'd have been Offensive Player of the Year. If it wasn't for Cooper Kupp being Cooper Kupp, he nearly carried a Carson Wentz-led offense with no receivers to it, or with only Michael Pittman and no other receivers to the playoffs. Last year, banged up. That team was terrible anyway. If you're the Colts, you stink. Honestly, let's be honest. You stink. You have some quote unquote good name players, but you suck. You have a rookie quarterback who, by all accounts purposes, we think can be dynamic. Maybe not right away, like he'll be dynamic right away, but has an incredible talent to grow and learn. 21 years old, 24-year-old running back. You got that quarterback for 5 years on a rookie deal. Let's say he meets all expectations and is like a souped up Donovan McNabb, like I've compared him to at this point, like a 2023 version of Don McNabb. You have that on a rookie deal for 5 years. Pay Jonathan Taylor 4 years and like $40 million all guaranteed. By the time his contract runs out, you pay Anthony Richardson, Quentin Nelson's huge contract, and Shaquille Leonard's will be off the books by that point, or you'll re-sign him to a different deal. You're in the weird flux where you have no reason not to pay him. You got to pay Michael Pittman too, so those two are going to cost a lot of money. You'll probably have to restructure a few other contracts, probably get rid of some other players that have underperformed. You don't have to choose between the two of them. Like, I know your cap space is a little more limited, but you can finagle things around when you have a rookie deal quarterback and a running back who, frankly, you put those two in the backfield, they might actually win games next year just because those two are going to scare people, assuming they don't play Gardner Minshew too much. So honestly, what better thing to help your young quarterback with all the talent in the world than arguably a guy who was considered the top running back 365 days ago, not even 365 days ago, even less than that. So if I'm the Colts, I don't overthink this. You give him 4 years, $40 million, all guaranteed, injury clause, no trade clause, whatever you want. He'll be like 28, I believe, when that contract ends. So he could still get another like 2-year deal at the end of it. But I don't see any reason you don't sign him, honestly. You saw how bad you stunk last year when he was injured. When he did play, he looked pretty good. I think he was still finished like 10th in rushing at one point or something like that. I think because of the injuries, it kind of went down, but yeah, he's your workhorse. He's your best offensive player. Don't overthink this. Just make it happen.
This feels very similar to the Bucs back in the day with Work Done. That letting him end up in Atlanta with Michael Vick afterwards. You know, he like thinking he was kind of like, oh, well, it's a running back. Like, we don't need to pay him. And then watching what he did in Atlanta with Michael Vick and squad, that's what I'm worried that's going to happen with the Colts. They're looking at Jonathan Taylor right now. Oh, no, he was injured last year. He was top 10 in rushing. It wasn't as good as his number one. Oh, no, maybe we don't sign him to it. No, sign this man. Do exactly what DJ said. 4 years. Get this man paid. Get him his contract. Get him on this field because he is your most dynamic player on the ball, period, point blank. You can slot him out if you need to. Play him inside. But just keep this man on the field. The dude runs the fastest you've ever seen from a running back. It's stupid the way he runs past people. He doesn't look like he's running still, and he still just glides past everybody. Look, if you have any hope of having any offense with Anthony Richardson, you need Jonathan Taylor in there. So get this man paid. Just do what you have to do. I don't think there's any question about it. Like, yeah, he doesn't need to be top 5 every year for the next 4 years to pay off this contract. He can stay top 10 every year for the next 4 years. And that contract of $40 million, $42 million a year, or $42 million total for 4 years. Yeah, sorry, my bad. I misspoke. $42 million a year for a running back would be insane. But $42 million for 4 years. You look at that, 10.5 a year. That's absolutely a steal for a guy who's a top 10 running back who's going to give you 1,000+ yards a season, probably give you close to 10 touchdowns at least, 8 to 10. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more for $10.5 million a year when you're getting less than that from a player that's making $13 million out on the side, out on the wing, like at any other position. Like,
by the way, I was wrong. He was at about 23rd last year in rushing. He was in the top 10 till they shut him down at the end of the year. That was my mistake. So he did finish only with about 800 yards, but that means he should be pretty darn fresh for this next year. And like you mentioned as well, too, he also can catch the ball pretty decently as well, too. No one's going to call him Christian McCaffrey, but he's not short of being able to use the ball in open space, catch multiple receiving touchdowns during that offensive player of the year caliber season, fantasy football champion season. All you have to do is get him the ball in space. And what better way to help Anthony Richardson? Send all of your receivers deep so he can unleash that cannon. If they play 4 deep, you can check it down to him in the flat, or you run those 2 on a speed option. There's too many options when he's not an old running back. That's what makes it extremely weird. Is he is still by professional athlete standards, he's still kind of a child. Like I think he's only 24, if I'm not mistaken. Like, you got plenty of time. Yeah, he's 24. You got at least 6 years before he hits that dreaded 30 mark as well. Like, why wouldn't you
and
keep
even
him
the
around?
even the new 28 mark for running backs that they're trying to use, he still has 4 years. Like, come on, just pay the dude. Like, it doesn't make sense. If you're gonna get the most out of Anthony Richardson, like you hope you can, just pay Jonathan Taylor. You need him. You need his style of play to offset Anthony Richardson. That's what's going to get you the best performance out of both guys. I don't know why they're not paying this man. It doesn't make sense. I know Jim Irsay's like, oh well, the CBA said, screw the CBA. Do what you do, and that is be a player's owner. You've always claimed you're a player's owner. Now prove it. Like, put your money where your mouth is, Jim Irsay. Now it's time to put down the crack pipe, and now it's time to pay the man.
I will say, too, with him only being 24, let's say you let him play out this year, then you try and franchise tag him, he'll still be 25 then at that point, if I'm not mistaken, or 26. Like, he's still going to be a young guy if you try and do that elongated thing. It's not like when you do that till they get 28, like we saw them do with Le'Veon Bell in Pittsburgh a few years ago, who kind of walked so everybody else here could run. If you can re-sign him to a 6-year deal worth $60 million right now, make it all guaranteed $10 million a year, something like that. If he'll take it, you're good to go till he's 30. And if he starts to break down, the end, the salary cap's going to go up $10 million for a really good running back at the back end of that. Cool, that'll work. Think of it like you're paying a number 2 receiver $10 million. Most teams will do that. T. Higgins, if the Bengals could get away with paying him $10 million, they will sprint their happy to the nearest bank and deposit that immediately. The Eagles with Devontae Smith.
That'd been in the bank account in cash in 10 seconds. Like, 10 seconds or less, First Cincinnati Bank would be filled with $40 million.
Exactly. Like, this is the one that I think it's obviously they have till next year before they even have to worry about it, where the other ones are worried about it right now. But this is one I think this is the one that I think makes the most sense to figure out, because he is so young and has done so much. And at the same time, you stink too damn bad to let it go, but you still have a bright future because of that young quarterback and some of those other young pieces you have, and a new head coach that, by all intents and purposes, you saw what he did with Jalen Hurts last year. You anticipate he could do a lot of the same thing with an Anthony Richardson, who has similar skill set, but arguably even more souped up to 11 once he gets some reps. So if I'm the Colts, this is the one I'm like, you figure out a way. Josh Jacobs, I think you pay him, but the Raiders can make a case. Saquon, you can make a case because you paid everybody else, unfortunately, which I disagree with, but you have reasoning. If I'm the Colts, it's like, you tell Quentin Nelson you played like poop last year. We're kicking some of your money down there. Shaquille, you didn't play last year. The one time you did, you ran your face into your own teammate. We're kicking some of your money down. You're restructuring a few of those contracts at that point. There's ways to do it. So if I'm the Colts, that they got to find a way to keep that one too.